This is another episode of Turjo Talks with your host, Turjo. And this is my favorite episode because it's all about me and my egotistical side and everything about me. Love this one.
That's exactly right. So before becoming a prolific podcaster, you've had a lot of different moments in your life and career that we're just going to talk about, create a little bit of context as to who Turjo is.
Awesome.
On the Turjo Talks podcast. Not your whole life story, but in 60 to 120 seconds. What was your life growing up?
Grew up in New York City, background from Bangladesh, so it's very strict, very different, different culture, different food, different people. And again, growing up in New York City was the greatest thing in the world. Got to meet all these different cultures, people. Again, very fast paced, and I was supposed to be an engineer, doctor, or a lawyer, and I chose none of the above. So very different.
Do you feel like you have kind of a tough guy thing going? Because people that grew up in New York pride themselves on the fact that they grew up in New York and laugh as if everyone in the world is soft compared to them. Do you have that thing inside of you where you feel like you are from the streets, kind of?
I'm not sure of the tough guy thing. Never thought about it that way, but for sure, feel like I have an edge just because we're a lot quicker and faster on our feet. So, things knock you down. You don't whine about it. You just get up and go because nobody cares.
Gotcha. A precursor to business. That's business. Every
That's
entrepreneurial project is that.
Yeah, that's it. Just keep on going.
So when did you end up in Atlanta?
I moved to Atlanta in 2003.
2003? For
Yep.
what?
I was supposed to go to Virginia Tech, and I was ready to go college right after high school. My dad came in and said, "Need your help in a gas station," that he bought in 2002, and had some struggles with that. So wanted my help. So I became the go-to child labor without any pay. So here I am here in Atlanta, Georgia.
So, okay, you were supposed to go to Virginia Tech, and you didn't go to college.
I ended up going to a community college here, Georgia Perimeter, because it was, again, last minute and just come in and help me at the store.
Wow. But life screwed up your college plans. You went to go work for free.
That's it.
And how long were you working there for?
Many years. 6, 7 years, maybe, probably longer.
6, 7 years starting, you were 18?
Yes, for a very long time.
18 years old. And what did you do at the gas station?
I showed up my very first day. I still remember my first customer wanted a Virginia Slim cigarette. Later on, I found out I was looking at lottery tickets. I had no idea. I thought people smoked Marlboro or Newports. I didn't know other things existed. So that's how green I was. From there, stocking shelves to mopping floors, the whole 9 yards.
So you're basically operating the whole store?
Along with my dad, yes.
Along with your dad.
And more than that, like if my dad was negotiating a lease with someone or a legal letter or something, I was the one to read it, to understand it. And then my dad would make the final call, of course. But for me to take everything on board, licensing, all the admin work, it was all me.
Was your dad letting you contribute to the business? First experience in a gas station business. Do your instincts start kicking in at that age? Like you feel like you're an operator, you're an entrepreneur. Do you just kind of do as you're told? / like, did you feel like you had a knack for it?
I didn't know what I was doing. It was routine stuff, right? So you show up in the morning. I woke up a lot earlier than any other friends that I had. I would wake up at 4 in the morning, open the store at 5 in the morning, and it was just like daily routine stuff. And then when my dad would come and relieve me from the store for my shift, if you would, I would go to Kroger, Quick Trip, find bundle deals on Coca-Cola or Pepsi, and buy it for cheap and pack up the car so I could bring it over to the next day. So it was, so I was a buyer. I was, trying to trade for deals and everything in between.
So you did that full time for 6 or 7 years?
Yeah. So, well, I always helped my dad out for a very long time. And then very quickly I'm again negotiating a lot of the deals that my dad had. I quickly got to know Barry Birnbaum and Mount Express Oil, who was the fuel supplier and the landlord. So from there, got a good relationship with them, and then the journey to more things, gas station or energy, came about.
Sure. And how did you develop that relationship with Barry, who was then the owner of Mountain Express?
That's correct. Yes. So we had a lease with them in a fuel supply. So anytime there was communications involved, it was always me in the forefront of speaking to whoever at the field level. So established a relationship there and just kind of went from there.
Gotcha. Okay. So as far as work, was it straight from that gas station job or co-owning, co-operating, straight to Mountain Express, or what other work experiences did you have?
Done every possible bad idea you could think of. So I was always an entrepreneur at heart, or thought at least. So I was working at the gas station, going to school, and then from there, start a fashion line. Not to be promoted, of course. It was terrible, but
would Bill have invested in that company?
Knowing Bill, if you look at the spreadsheet, he would say, "Stay 1,000 feet away. Do not come near me again." We thought it was a great idea.
What was the fashion line?
It was called Turjo Dionucci.
Turjo what?
Dionucci. So the partner's last name and mine. So two partners. And I still remember right down the road here on Lenox Road had a shop. I forget the name of the shop now. But we got some shelf space to promote our T-shirt line.
Really?
It was the coolest thing in the world. All my friends were wearing our T-shirts. And anytime you saw someone, you're like, "Oh, I made it." But we made no money ever, of course. But
Jeez. Okay, so how big was that project? Like you printed out a couple of shirts, or how many units did you order?
I can't even tell you how many units. I think it was a couple hundred on different SKUs and different, we had probably a year and a half we did. And finally got into denim.
Oh.
And started expanding that. And then one day my partner just stopped showing up. So,
for real?
Yeah. So he's just like, found other things to do in life. And he had a family and kids and whatnot. So it's like, nah, it's not going to work out.
So you were like the young upstarter with energy. This guy had kind of settled down, didn't have the energy. Right. Was he funding the project? Were you co-funding the project?
Yeah, and we would sell some items, get the money, and put it right back in. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a great experience.
Jeez. So when he got up and left, did you just also decide you can't do it without him, or?
Yeah, I didn't know any better, and the calls for the gas stations were there, so it was just.
So you're juggling this. Did you have any? What other projects did you have?
So I did that for a little bit, and then got into the fitness industry. So I got married very young. And my wife signed me up because I gained a lot of weight after getting married, and signed me up for a fitness boot camp. And the very first day, she's like, "How was it? Do you like this boot camp?" I said, "It was so good." I ended up buying it. So I ended up buying became a franchisee of this boot camp.
Really?
Yeah, I did that for a little bit. I got into home theater business with a friend. Then I realized. For me, if I cannot add value to something, I don't want to be a part of it. And my partner was just a great guy, and he was really the brains of the operations as far as installing home theater and technology and what have you. And I always was the guy that was holding the ladder, make sure he doesn't fall, or giving him the screwdriver. That was it. I made a few sales calls, which I was good at, but I'm like, you know what? I just feel bad taking half the profits for this business. So
so that deal you just kind of pulled out because you thought you were making too much money for the value you were adding. You were like,
right.
Okay,
no, that wasn't fair on him.
Interesting.
And at that point, we had a baby on the way. So the goal in life was to save up enough money for a nursery. The goal was $3,500 to be exact.
Wow.
For that budget for the nursery.
So you were working at the gas station during that time and hustling on the side, trying to figure it out.
Right, and doing consulting work for Mountain Express as well at that point.
Okay, so by that point, you were already doing consulting work. What type of work was that?
Sell fuel contracts, real estate, bring on dealers as far as operators to run new stores.
So we skipped a lot of steps. How do you go from going to the Kroger to find Coca-Cola deals to consulting your fuel supplier on the deals that they're doing with
So-
who knows who.
Barry came to me. He's like, every time I come here, you're really impressive. You're always here. I don't know a lot of 18, 19-year-olds that stick around and does this stuff, right? So maybe you should come and work for me. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And he wanted me to be a territory manager, which basically you have 30, 40, 50 locations that you're doing admin work for. And you go around and, make sure the brand is up to standard and what have you. I did that for 3 days and I hated every bit of it. I'm not an admin person. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm not organized. I'm more of a free thinker. So I hated it. He's like, can you sell? I'm like, I don't know. I think I'd be better at that than, more relationships. He's like, yeah, let's give that a shot.
Because at this point, did you have any inkling of an idea that like you were like, all right, I think I have a knack for sales? Like, did you think that thought by that point or no?
I did not. I was good with the gas station customers.
Yeah.
Upsell them on mid-grade versus premium. But no, I always enjoyed creating relationships with people. That's something I truly enjoyed. So I gave it a twirl.
So you went straight into sales. So what was that like? You had to go find your own leads, or were there leads already that were waiting to be sold?
Find my own leads. So, what I did was went around the gas station stores, whatever. And I always spoke to people, random. And I remember one day pulled up into a gas station. This was my very first sale for Vermont Express Oil. Pulled up into a gas station in Swanee while I was filling up, go inside the store, and paid for fuel. And the guy happens to be from Bangladesh, and we just started a chat. And he's like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "Oh, I work with Mountain Express Oil." Just my first couple of days. And what do you do at Mountain Express? Well, I align opportunities with the right people. That's interesting. He's like, "I'm looking for a store. Come on down. We'll find you something, make sure something works." And a couple weeks later, sold him a piece of real estate.
Really?
Just like that. Yep.
And were you doing this methodically, like go door to door, basically, just filling up?
No, I didn't even. I'm not a door-to-door salesperson. I was never good at cold calls. For me, it's about the right relationship. So with him, he brought me a couple of stores that he was looking at that wasn't a part of the system. But, I helped him on that part. I'm like, I wouldn't do this because I thought I had a little bit of experience and I know how to break down numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And told him it wasn't probably the right fit for him. But if you need my help, call me.
Right.
And he landed up in a store where we sold the real estate to him. And I thought I made a...
So how did you source people to do business with? At that point, you're how old when you start the consulting work?
19.
You're 19
years old.
Oh, I thought this was years down the line. Okay, wait. So you skipped college to start working at a gas station, and a year later, you're already doing the consulting.
So let's go back a little bit. Skip Virginia Tech, go to Georgia, move here, help my dad out. And then while doing that, started consulting work for Mountain Express Oil because I was negotiating my dad's deals already because he had a tough time with speaking the language and whatever. So I was always the default person to go to. So from there, while I was doing all these other entrepreneurial ventures, I was going to school still at night and started this consulting deal.
Wow. So, okay. So at 19, you're finding people how?
Again, met this one person. From there, met the seller, right? So someone's selling the store. There's a person in between. The real estate is owned by Mountain Express Oil. So I sold the real estate, met the dealer there. From there, 1-2 connections, and it was just word of mouth. And I always believed in anyone I meet, how do I help them? Especially in the industry itself. And it was always kind of free consulting, if you would. So if you need a gas contract or piece of real estate, whatever, you don't have to buy from me. Let me just help you. From there, I just started getting 1, 2, 3 calls and started connecting the dots more.
And did you do that like methodically, or was it just like a natural, I think this is how I should go about, so here goes nothing?
If I told you it was strategic, I would be lying to you because I didn't know what strategic was at that time.
Right.
But I think it was more of a knack of trying to help others. And I knew what I wasn't good at. And again, if you told me to pick up the phone and start calling people, I probably wouldn't be good at that.
Right.
but meeting people face to face and seeing how I could help them came natural.
Yeah.
So I know it's good at that. I enjoyed it. Put it that way.
Gotcha. So after the first deal, just you meet the dealer, you meet the client, you meet the broker, and then each relationship leads to 2, 3, 5 more relationships.
Right. And I did like that particular deal. You'd always want to do the transfer of ownership in late night after the store closes, so you don't disturb the business, right? So a gas station like inventory counting, auditing, whatever, you would usually happen like midnight or late into the night, so you don't disturb the business. You don't want your customers to know. So I showed up for that closing, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I just want to help you out and make sure you're comfortable." The gentleman's, the seller's family was there, and he had brother-in-laws and cousins and a couple other people, because it's a big deal for them, right?
Of course.
You're exchanging a couple $100,000 at that point or whatever. It's a large deal. Got to know them. From there, it just sprouts and just evolving.
Wow. Okay, so now you are what, a rogue sales? You said consultant, but you also said sales.
I'm really, consultant was the nicer word
For a sales
rogue
associate.
sales. Yes.
So you're a rogue sales
I'm selling
agent
whatever I can.
on behalf of MEX at this point. You declined the opportunity after trying being a territory manager, which is a little more corporate, a little more admin. So now you're a sales guy. What was that trajectory like? This is still what are we, 2004 now?
2004.
2004, you're a rogue sales guy at MEX. What is that sales guy trajectory from there?
So from there, the next year, still doing that and trying to do other businesses on the side too, just trying to make something. Mind you, in between, I took a job at Red Lobster. I worked at Domino's, Dunkin' Donuts, Red Lobster, all of that in the evenings, in the weekends. Red Lobster was the best one because I could only work Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. So it doesn't affect helping my dad out at the gas station. And it was a perfect schedule because I needed money to survive also.
I got you. So you're really stacking. Your full main job was still the gas station.
Gas station, helping dad out.
And then taking shifts at the restaurant just to fill other time. And then on top of that, you had a commission type role.
Consulting, yes.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
Right. So in 2005, that summer, I sold another piece of real estate, and I thought I made a lot of money. I made $40,000, and I thought I was the richest kid,
which is a lot
ever. Yeah, back then it was a lot of money. From there, I ended up buying a gas station myself in Baldwin, Georgia. And if you don't know where Baldwin, Georgia is, don't worry. No one knows where Baldwin, Georgia is. It's a little different than New York City, put it that way. The population, I think, at that time was like 400 people, not 1,000.
Wow. Wait, so how'd you get a $40,000 commission check?
Sold a large piece of real estate to a dealer, and Mount was very happy. They made $1 million or so on the deal or whatnot. So
you got a small cut, which is a huge cut for a 19-year-old.
Yeah,
and at that point,
living large.
And you had the sensibility to reinvest that as a 19-year-old.
Right.
How'd you learn to do that?
So my dad is at 3 or 4 stores now, so I helped him grow there. And this is a store that he was struggling with, and he had paid $40,000 for that store in inventory. So I paid my dad, and I bought the store from him.
Oh, gotcha. And then what happened to that store? How'd that go?
Terrible. The first few months was just a struggle. It was a lot.
Gotcha.
Wasn't making any money. That's why Dad wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
And then after 6 months or so, really turned the store around and started doing very well.
How'd you turn it around?
Again, relationships there. And I remember the biggest hustle for that store to turn around was pizza really helped. So I introduced food to that little town. So I was making barbecue, pulled pork in the store, just trying to sell anything, just trying to keep this thing alive, right? And I remember accidentally, I would buy DiGiorno pizza from Costco and sell it at the store. Well, I left the box out at night one day, and like for 4 hours or 5 hours. In the morning, I come in, I'm like, crap, I left the pizza box out. Come in, and the pizza's like all thought out, perfect, room temperature, and this thing's like this fluffy. It just looks great, right? So I put it through the oven for me to try, and it was the most delicious thing I ever ate. I'm like, this is good. put it out there and it sells out like immediately. So keep leaving pizza out to a point where, again, a small town, Baldwin, Georgia, there's like this homeless guy always hanging out at the store. And I'm like, do you want a job? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but you got to pay me in food. I'm like, dude, I'll pay you actually, right? Like, so I had a 2003 Ford Focus that I had bought for like $2,000 or something, right? This was my daily car going to work. And I made this guy deliver pizza in town. So this became like the local Domino's. He would make pizza, 2-liter specials, whatever, and just sell pizzas around. Deliver pizzas from a gas station before Uber Eats.
That is insane. And my jaw is dropped because like I'm here trying to figure out, okay, we got to, by all measures, an extremely successful entrepreneur now here in 2025, Turjo Wadud. Like, who is this guy at 19, 20 years old to warrant, okay, like, what is he going to do? Like, who could have thought this kid would have been successful? I think that makes sense because you took a brick and mortar location and you decided to increase revenues by introducing delivery.
Service that has never
Who's ever done that before? I don't know if I've ever heard of that before.
It's in a town where there's no pizza delivery. You can't get there. It's too far, right? So it's kind of dead. So I'm like, hey, deliver pizza, right?
And you got a homeless guy to do it?
He was taking my car, and the car would stink afterwards, right? But I'm like, hey, it's a one-man show. Let's do it.
Wow. I did not know about this story. Okay, so the Baldwin store turns around. You're selling DiGiorno's or whatever you end up procuring around town. Oh, by the way, what were the sales on pizza delivery?
I can't even remember right now, but I was doing a lot. A lot. I remember one time the Costco ran out of pizza that I was buying. I'm like, crap. So I would make like 2 a week deliveries. I remember I had to buy a freezer to stack the pizza out. But I could never tell anyone this DiGiorno. I would throw the boxes away just to keep the wrap. Because I'm like, I don't want people to know it's DiGiorno.
So you're branding them as just, Turjo's Pizza?
The store was called 4-Way Stop, so it's just 4-Way Stop Pizza.
4-Way Stop Pizza. Why is it so good?
Good. And I would buy these things, I don't know, like $3 for a pie, sell it like $12.
There you go.
And just churning money.
That is insane.
I remember in the afternoon, people would just wait in line. I had to buy a second oven just to churn.
Do you have pictures of this?
I don't know if I have pictures.
That is insane. Were you making more money on the profit from pizza or everything else?
So the pizza brought more people, and like while people were waiting, they would play the game machines there, and the game machines business started going really well because it just people waiting on pizza, right? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll wait. And
you invented your own demand.
That's it.
In a small town, you decided to go, and you didn't think this through where you thought it would be
survival of the fittest at that point.
That is insane. Okay. Anyways, you bought your first store.
Yeah, and then from there, back then you'd take checks at these stores.
Sure.
So you would hear like all these stores would have, prop bat checks and everything. So I remember I had a check machine. You would go through, clear the checks. So I would advertise, accept checks.
Yeah.
So like, oh, this guy's great. So, it just became the talk of town.
That's amazing. And at that point, were you at that store most of the time?
I was at that store still helping my dad with all the admin work, helping him with whatever he needs, still running his business.
Gotcha.
As we continue.
So was it challenging to operate the business and work at Red Lobster at night and weekends and still have the, because you have to take additional time to then brainstorm ideas and things like that? Or are we just thinking of things on the job? Like, how did that work?
This is on the go. There's no strategic vision here.
There's no vision board. There's no board of directors.
And the goal for me was at that point, I had met another gentleman through the Mountain Express process. But if I could ever get to 10 stores a year, 10 stores combined, then every store, even if I scaled it down and had more employees and whatnot, I could probably make $5,000 to $10,000 per location a month.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, if I could make 50 to 100 grand a month, I'm living large. Like I have made it at that point.
Yeah.
That was the goal. And how do you scale?
And during that time, you became probably an amazing gas station operator.
I did. for sure. I know how to do it.
So, okay, tell me this in 2025, because I'm sure the game is more or less the same.
Yeah.
There is a scrappy entrepreneur, investor, owner, whatever reason someone might own a gas station. They got one. They are owning it. They're operating it. What do you tell that person? Like top three things to make sure this gas station does as well for you as possible. What are those differentiating factors?
The first thing for me, the advice I would give is that admire and respect your competition. All right. So the guy you hate most, competition wise, go to the store every day and learn from what he's doing well. Quick Trip is a big player here, right? Go to a Quick Trip and see what they're doing different. And that's the simplest thing that people could do. And just don't get, because you get store blind.
Yeah.
You're in the store every day and everything looks perfect.
Yeah.
That's all you see. Visit your competition more.
And what do you think most gas station owners are not doing that Quick Trip or other great operators are doing?
Clean restrooms, smiley faces, having a uniform on, just very simple, basic stuff. Because as a single store operator, they already have an advantage. They know the customers that's coming in. They know their names. They know the lottery tickets they're going to play. They know all that. The only thing they're not providing is a clean restroom, a clean workplace, the easy stuff. They're already doing the hard part.
Yeah.
People forget that.
Gotcha. Okay. So, anyways, you've operated this one store. You had this dream of going to maybe one day 10 gas stations. What happens after you buy and essentially flip? Now this Baldwin store is doing really well. What are kind of next steps from there?
Next steps from there, I got married very early. So I was 21 when I got married. And we wanted children, start a family. So I held on to the store for a while still trying the other hustles and whatnot. I asked myself, I'm like, you know what do I want my legacy to be? Do I want my son, my unborn son, one day to say, my dad owned a gas station? Like, that's not what I really see myself. What else can I do? So I always wanted to, I was never satisfied or never cared about the dollars I was bringing in. It was, what else can I do? What's more? So I started a credit card processing business, which is basically checks and credit card processing, sign up people. I knew enough people at that point to do. So I did that, sold that business. And then I got into game machines. So I ended up owning a company to have my own game machines. And again, I wanted to see if I could try other businesses to scale and not stick with one gas station, and ended up selling the gas station.
Gotcha. And then meanwhile, what was happening at Mountain Express?
So Mountain Express in 2010 had sold. That company sold.
By that point, you were in your role for 6 years.
Yeah, and always kept in touch with the owner. And I was never an official employee. That ended, and was happy with the store, but what's next for me? So ended up selling my store and trying out the game machine, the credit card processing, and other businesses out there.
But as your role as a kind of rogue agent, that's still going on?
That's not going on at that point.
Oh, okay.
Now focused on building my own business.
And then how do you get back into Mountain Express? What happens between 2010 and...
Right. So 2012, I took a corporate job at E.B. Brown as sales agent there, or territory category manager, whatever the title was. Did that for 11 months or so, and again hated that corporate side. I wanted to give it a try, and
you're doing all the admin stuff.
All the admin stuff, and the hardest thing about that job was that anytime you had a good idea, you have to go through the corporate flag, and you could never implement anything. You could never execute a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I could sell whatever I want to, but again, implementing was really hard. So hated that job.
Why'd you take that job in the first place?
I wanted to, for two reasons. One is bring stability, right? Growing family, and never was a corporate employee, so I thought it would help me on the development side. And then the other thing is that, again, I have my game machine business now. I have credit card couple other things I'm doing on the side, I'm in front of 50 to 70 stores right in front of me. I could help sell my product there too. So
Gotcha.
it was helping the side hustle.
Gotcha. Always thinking ahead.
Yeah, and it was not a conflict. So in EB Brown, we sold cigarettes, chips, beer. I'm sorry, cigarettes, chips, soda, and other things.
Sure.
Never sold that, so it was never a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And
But you always stayed in your vertical. You were always in fuel and gas
always
stations.
in gas stations, energy world. Yep.
Gotcha. And then you did that for 11 months. What happened?
And I remember we got a call from Barry, and he wanted to come back to the market. And I said, done. I actually got fired from that job. The funny thing is that I think I was the top sales agent or the second, but I wasn't putting enough hours. And they caught me not putting enough hours in this company. And all those sales reps would be working 50, 55 hours a week. I think I was doing 15 hours, 20 hours. And I'm
still
like,
beating them.
And I'm like, because, you visit all your locations, and the whole push at that point was to get customers to order their own product.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to switch customers to self-order. I switched these guys in like a month. I had like 90% of my customers sold into ordering their own. And I'm like, look, we'll meet twice a week and we'll talk about business.
Yeah.
How do you grow your thing,
Yeah.
right? And obviously corporate wasn't very happy with that. So I was fired.
But you did make them more money than any other territory.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that kind of culture is so backwards.
Well,
Like you got to find a way to reward those people.
It's funny. I had great experience with their CEO and their executive team when I went to Naperville, Chicago, to meet those guys. Great guys, and their top sales manager or director, whatever he was, they were flirting with the idea of promoting me to VP of sales in Baltimore. I had no desire to move to Baltimore. And I guess being an entrepreneur is so difficult to wait to implement something rather than just pulling the trigger and go.
Yeah.
And it was not my thing. So anyways,
So you were let go.
terminated.
You were let go, but
Yes.
around the same time, you said that's when
That same
Barry,
day, as a matter of fact, like it happened within hours.
as a coincidence, complete
As a
coincidence.
complete coincidence. And Barry called and said, what he had said is that, hey, I have a store in Cumming, Georgia. Need your help. And we always kept in touch, by the way. And he's like, I have a store in Cumming, Georgia. Need your help. Need a dealer for it. I'm like, all right, fine, great. And then I went to see him that same day. It was a Friday. And he's like, by the way, keep it between us. I'm thinking about entering the market again. Would you be interested? I'm like, sure, but don't know what any of that means.
Yeah.
So that following Monday, I'm like, let me think about it a little bit. So that following Monday, I officially joined Mountain Express as an employee for the first time. It was only 4 of us. It was Barry, his wife, me, and my partner, Lamar Frady.
As an employee at that point.
As an employee. So employee is really more of a sales rep still, but employee I had a territory because he's like, I got to justify paying you something.
Yeah.
And my salary was a whopping $1,500 a month, and everything else was just commission. So, it was a small territory, 10 stores instead of 50. And the rest was sales.
Gotcha. So he started this from the ground up.
Yeah, so Barry had 50 stores at that time that he owned the property. Then he took the stores back, long story short. So just a small company. Out of the 50 stores, 17 or 20 of them were shut down. It was closed. So it was uphill battle.
Gotcha. So you came in territory manager in quotes, but
Yeah.
really you're the rogue sales guy.
Right.
How'd it go? And this is 2013 now, right?
This is 2013. Again, hated the territory management position.
Someone had to do the admin stuff in the startup.
So it was easy. I'm like, you know what? If I get rid of these stores, if I sold the real estate to the dealers, I don't have to do this TM crap. Like, I hated it. So within a couple months, I sold 7 stores back to the dealers. Made great commission on it. All right. But I'm like, if I just get rid of them, I don't have to do it. And then Barry's like, you hate this, don't you? I'm like, I absolutely hate it. He's like, all right, you sell everything that I buy. So, I don't want to waste our time on you doing territory management. Would you just full time just sales? I'm like, yeah, I think I would enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. And by the way, what'd you get paid on the 7-store commission? It's got to be pretty good.
I don't remember, but it was good. Good.
Yeah,
amount.
it was good money.
It was good money at that. And when I was hired, there was no cap on commission, so it was just sell whatever you can.
Yeah. And then you come in as full-time sales, and then you just keep killing it.
Yeah, and I was selling supply agreements too, so I would introduce new people to our company and get more fuel supply, increase the fuel gallons. And I remember Barry told me before, and Barry was very good about setting goals and being transparent. So it was 3 years, 36 million gallons of fuel, and then we'll sell the company.
Okay.
That was the idea, or whatever comes first. Or 5 years, 36 million gallons, I'm sorry. So I'm like, Martin, let's give it a twirl, see what we could do.
And where were you guys starting off from?
Like 4 million gallons a year. It's very low.
Just trying to 10x.
And the idea was just to get the store back open.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then 2015 was like the breakthrough year when I really started getting a lot of traction with the community. And you sell something, and you become the project manager because you have to rebrand the store, all of that. So I was doing it all, like legal contracts too, because it's just small, bootstrap company. 2015, I believe I sold like 80 something contracts. I was like, and the next competition in Georgia,
Wow.
The second highest fuel supplier did 12. So I was just running and gunning and crushing it. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Jeez. Okay. So between 2013 and 15, you're kind of like, grinding, making good money. But 2015 is when things popped off.
Yeah.
And then, he hits his 3-5-year goal, or
basically, yeah, we're surpassed at that point. And he's like, look, sat down with me. He's like, you're making too much money.
How much money were you making at that point?
2015, I think I was poised to make a couple $1 million.
As an employee, just on
just
commissions.
a commission guy. And he's like, I don't want to, you're going to hurt yourself. This is too much money for a young kid.
So when you saw that money, so you didn't get to touch that money. So you didn't get to go out to the Lambo store randomly.
No, not yet. So he sat down with me and Lamar Frady and a couple other employees, and he's like, you know what? This kid's gonna hurt himself. He's selling, just making too much
that's
money.
what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Sure, he's gonna hurt him. It's for him. I'm not gonna pay him.
What if we switch it up and give them an equity plan instead of paying all this money, which he's gonna hurt himself with?
Wow. Was he saying it like stiff arming you, like there's no way to access this money, or was it actually a generous act of like, let's roll this into equity?
I think it was a little bit of both. He did care for sure, but also let's switch this up a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay, so at 2015-ish is when you got some couple $1 million worth of equity in Mountain Express.
Mountain Express, and the great thing was, the company was very entrepreneurial, extremely, and so were we. And my role where I wouldn't have to ask anything, just go and do it, get it done.
Yeah.
And we were outworking everyone. I mean, I signed supply agreements at midnight before. Like, it was, the phone rings, you go and get it signed.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
Wow.
Great culture.
And so
Very tough.
From the point you got equity, now did your role change or?
No, same role.
Same role.
Because I was the top guy already, executive seat and all that stuff. So, and Barry was very good about empowering people. So he was really good at that. Very tough, rigid goals and guidelines. However, you kind of make your own deal and just run and gun.
How do you then become a larger stakeholder in the organization?
2018 comes around, and we had a plan of, so we were thinking about selling the company at that point. So we were meeting with investors and other people. So every week it was Barry, myself, a couple other people in the room, always trying to, take investors or sell the company. And then had an idea of, what if the management just bought the company? So that's when we did our first deal, acquiring 49%, I believe, of the company. And it would be a 5-year plan to purchase the rest from 2018.
Gotcha. So from 2018 to 2023, you kind of incremental increase in equity.
Right.
Gotcha.
And it was a EBITDA target number to hit Once you hit that number, we could fund the rest of the company.
Gotcha. So during that role, after you did that deal, are you now a CEO or a co-CEO?
No,
or
Barry's still all in charge. He would never let go of power. We're still same role. Nothing changes except you have an larger equity interest in the company.
Gotcha. So when did you become CEO?
So the goals we had set for 5 years, we accomplished them in 2 years now, and just crushing deals, and we're getting more of a national platform now. We're growing to the states. And 2020, it's when Lamar and I really, we're the only ones remaining at that executive role now. Ended up buying the company together.
So you kind of made another deal before the 5-year term was up.
Yeah. And Barry made the deal because we hit our numbers so quick.
Yeah. So back up, like you did hit the number, like usually when you set a 5-year goal, usually it's like a north of what you really, like you don't really plan out in detail, like exactly how we're going to do it. You hope you get there.
Right.
But you did it. Not only did you do it, you did it in 2 out of the 5 years. How did you guys grow so quickly?
I think we had a good system in place where, we were getting so much traction there, and again, opening up new geographies too. We got a lot of calls, and we were really good at making deals. So we were getting a lot of sellers to call us, and we're acquiring at that point rather than just organic growth. So the acquisitions really helped scale a lot quicker.
It was just
A
word
lot
of
faster.
mouth.
Word of mouth, and again, once you're in the market buying so much, we scaled a lot quicker.
And at that level, and I guess here we're talking mostly about gas station owners selling.
That's correct.
Okay.
Gas station owners, and then small companies too. Same companies like what we did, fuel suppliers.
How did you imprint your brand into the minds of sellers at that time that helped you, be above the rest as far as a customer experience or the equity that they could pocket or this or that? Like, how did you make yourself referable?
The biggest thing was that if we put something on a contract, we'll close. So them having the confidence in us closing was a big deal. We weren't the guys that offered you 10 million and then at the closing table we'll go, we'll renegotiate. If we offered something, we did a lot of due diligence in the beginning, but if we offered you something under contract, it was going to close.
So no one's going to have to dance around with lawyers for 18 months.
No. We showed up at the table.
It's a good customer experience for
Every
the
time.
seller.
Right. So that helped a lot.
And so you got referred. There was a lot of momentum. Within 2 years, you hit your growth plans. And what was the EBITDA targets at that point?
I forget what the EBITDA target was. I believe the EBITDA target was 40 million to hit.
40 million a year.
Yeah, 40 million a year.
Wow.
We did that pretty.
And by 2020, Mountain Express is doing 40 million a year. And at that point, you and your partner bought out the company in full. So by 2020, you guys own it. What was the trajectory from that point? And how did it change strategically now that you're at the helm versus, Barry?
The idea was really to keep scaling the fuel operations because everything we did was a lot of real estate, and we depended a lot on the real estate income to flip and make a profit. So we would buy the stores, sell it almost immediately, and then keep some real estate profit. Kept the fuel for a very long time, 20 plus year fuel contracts.
Gotcha.
And keep on growing that way.
So, like the simplest terms possible, your main strategy was you bought and then you sold right away, basically? You tried to make a flip? And did you do that instantly? Was it just arbitrage, or did you have to go in and change something up for 3 months and then sell it? How did that work? Instant.
Yeah. So at that point I was, getting a lot of investors on board. Had a lot of confidence in the market, and we performed. So we would sell it when we bought it.
So explain to the non-real estate developer, non-commercial real estate professional, anyone to the layman, what were you exactly doing? How did you make money? And to me, it's confusing, or to the average person, it could be confusing where, how do you just buy something and then sell it right at that second? How does that work?
So what we got really good at, especially for myself, is that I knew how to arbitrage real estate very well. So what we would do is that we would take real estate or take a deal and pick it apart, right? So you take a piece of real estate, and the way the real estate market works is that it's based on a cap rate. So the stronger the credit, the lower the cap rate. So Chick-fil-A, for example, would have a lot lower cap rate than a single tenant operator.
And a cap rate is what?
Cap rate is basically the percentage of rent you're paying on the purchase price, right? So knowing Chick-fil-A, their balance sheet is strong. They have a great brand. They're they're less risky. So lower the risk, lower the cap rate. Higher the risk, higher the cap rate.
Sure.
So at that point, I would buy a piece of real estate and basically lever the real estate up, sell the piece of real estate, keep a small profit on the real estate, and then keep the fuel supply agreements for 20 years plus, right? So there's three parts of the deal. You'd buy the piece of real estate, sell it. You'd get a new tenant in there, a tenant that we think that could do a better job on running the store, improve the store. You would put CapEx in it, which is capital expenses, right?
Sure. And
So
that's
you
like what, new signage?
new
or-
signage, new pumps, make the store look more modern because we're buying these things, value add properties. And then the last piece is the fuel part that we would keep for long term.
So you do like flip it a little bit.
You flip it, yeah.
I mean, as in,
But you kept the operations. You flip just the dirt,
right. So
or the income stream from rent.
but even if you bought it, there has to be some time to install signs, pumps, this and that,
Yes.
right?
No. So what we would do is that basically you would pledge that we're going to do all this, and we had great market reputation at that point.
Gotcha.
People know that we're going to do it.
Gotcha. Okay, so you sell it with all the improvements built into the contract, not yet built into the actual real estate.
And it would help us too because we had commitments from big oil companies and all that stuff. And for us, if you improve the properties, the fuel sales goes up, where we enjoy.
So
more
now you
profit
can
there.
go at unlimited speed
Unlimited speed.
because all you got to do is find the potential deal, and now you have the reputation for anyone to be like, okay, MEX is going to follow through on what they say because they've done it.
Right.
And so now you're at liberty to go make as many deals as you want.
Larger deals. Very quickly.
So those deals got how large?
It got big. The largest deal we bought was close to $150 million.
$150 million. And that's just like a portfolio of
Portfolio of gas stations.
gas stations?
Yep.
Gotcha. $150 million. And then what was kind of the peak?
I mean, at the peak we're doing about $137, $140 million of EBITDA. I don't know the exact number now, but we're doing a lot of real estate. I mean, I have done, I don't know, maybe $2 billion in real estate in a very short period of time. And remember, it's a lot of pieces to that, right? So you're buying, you're selling, so you're constantly talking to new investors, 1031 exchange buyers, institutional funds. So talking to everyone while you're creating this massive fuel gallons.
Yeah. At what point do you feel like, wow, I might be the guy doing billions of dollars worth of transactions? Like, what is that moment of realization? Like, when do you, like, is there a deal or like you're just in a room with some really powerful people? Like, how does that, like, when do you figure that out about yourself?
So, let's back up a little bit. I think the biggest gift and curse was really COVID. COVID was really tough. So we buy this company on March 12th, I think, 2020, and at like 4 p.m. or something. So, close this big deal, sit down, and it's really our life's work in this deal now because we didn't take any equity out. We put everything back in this company. The very next day, we had aligned all of our employees. I think we had 31 employees at that time, 33 employees, and Lamar and I took ourselves out of salary, so we didn't take a salary anymore. So it's 31 payroll people on payroll. We had an 11 o'clock meeting, a hoorah speech that, hey, we're going to get in, do this, and let's get ready for the next growth. And just as I'm sitting here, I have my phone flipped upside down so I don't get distracted. I flipped the phone and I saw like 7 missed calls from my wife, right? And I saw a text message saying that it's going to be okay, do not panic. And I'm like, immediately you go, panic, right? And I turned the TV on. There you have President Trump declaring a pandemic and shuts down the nation the very next day that we bought the company.
That was your welcome to COVID moment.
That's welcome to COVID moment. And we had a crap moment because the previous management ran things very different and old school. They were writing checks, everything was manual. Every contract had a file. where everything was manually signed, put into actual files, file cabinets. We had no backup plan, no crisis, no work from home. We didn't know what that meant. And I give a lot of kudos to Lamar here. He was really the the operations guy. That whole entire weekend we worked and came up with a plan to start getting people remote. And because if you don't bill, I mean, at that point, our revenue, I don't know what it was, but several $100 million. So it's not a small company. And how do you work from home? So within 7 or 8 days, we found a way to get people working remote.
Yeah.
And ready to go.
Wow. And then you knew that you had a head start on every other company because you were already a little bit more technological.
A little bit more. And then, but what happened then was, again, for us, and the world knew when we bought this big company, especially when we're raising capital from all the large banks and stuff. One gentleman asked a very good question. What is every great plan has a weakness. What is the weakness here? Our weakness was if we stop acquiring, because so much of we knew we had to get to a certain scale of fuel, but until then, you had to flip real estate to get to that point. And now COVID is there. The country shut down. How do you acquire? And I remember we had a large pipeline of things that we're going to buy, just disappeared. Because how are you going to close? What do you do? And that was the major wake-up moment. And getting back to your question, this is a very long way to answer your question, was the aha moment was, I think I was at home for like 8 days during COVID and then got on a plane. And I still remember on the plane, it was me in the very first seat of the aircraft, those gentlemen all the way in the back, 2 of us. And I'm like, this thing's not going to take off. Sure enough, the door closes, we take off. I remember sending a picture to my wife. I'm like, I am fucking legend. Like, I made it. So I went to Cleveland, Ohio to acquire a package of stores. And a gentleman was like, I never thought you're going to show up, because we had spoke to him before everything shut down. And remember staying at the Ritz-Carlton downtown Cleveland, $29 a night. It was me and 2 other that's staying at the Ritz. The other 2 stayed there because they couldn't get out. They were there prior.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to get out.
Yeah.
And I just walked in. That was it. That was so doing deals during COVID. Like, I'm talking about, I guess we throw the word COVID around loosely because COVID is really 5 years now.
Sure.
But this is the height of the pandemic. Like, if you see another human being, you might die.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it
It's
felt
like
like.
April
Yeah,
2020.
this is as bad as it gets. So closing those deals, and I was on a call, 20 times a day, talking to a 1031 exchange investor, talking to a seller, like same pitch. Walmart Express, blah, 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 I do this, and the whole pitch all over again. But what I really did well there is that talking to so many different people, I compressed the cap rates even further. So previous to us buying it, we're doing deals at 9, 9.5, 10% cap rate. During those calls, I was trading deals at 6%, 7%. So every deal I was doing, I was shopping around, trying to put one against another, negotiating, and our deals, our cap rate compressed a lot. And that really was the aha moment, like, wait, we could really get there really quick.
Yeah. So you figured out your edge.
Yes.
And then that allowed you to...
And that was simple. It was outworking everyone else.
Yeah.
But also knew that, we could really, if we could do this during COVID and we put a reputation that we're the only ones buying at that time.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Fascinating. And so you kind of had this momentum through COVID where a lot of people, no one else was getting on the plane, clearly.
No.
You got on the plane, you were on the phone, and you were kind of, I don't know, hit the ground running, COVID.
That's it.
And then you guys grew, this is 2020. Then you grew to what, billions in revenue?
Yeah. So let me see. At the height, we were doing about 400 million gallons of fuel at run rate. I mean,
and your original target that you told me in 2013 was 36.
36. I mean,
So
we were doing that
take that berry,
very
huh?
easy.
A month.
But we had several billion in revenue with the real estate that we're doing yearly, and
Wow.
we were doing a lot.
Wow. What are you doing now?
Again, more entrepreneurial things that I've always done. I'm working on building another company, and while we do all the other different things, really enjoying this advisory group because one thing that I'm passionate about, and from experience now, is what not to do. So I think I could help a bunch of other entrepreneurs realize that, hey, the role as a CEO is very different than an entrepreneur, and put your guards up when you can for all these things, so you can, sell the company easier, or different things, just
Yeah.
different steps.
317 Advisory Group, complete consulting for dynamic entrepreneurs. What do you guys do?
So what I do is that I advise myself a couple years ago what to look out for, and that's really, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So if you were to sell tomorrow, I could help you sell that business, yes, but that's not where I add value. I'll take that on because I could make, a fee off that.
Yeah.
That's great. But I think what I am really good at, and how 317 could really help you, is if you want to sell 2 years from now or in the future for a large exit, then I could really help you navigate on things not to do. Again, just from experience that I have learned,
Right.
especially over this bankruptcy.
You told your MEX story, but between the time you first got involved and now it's been like 21 years. What other, outside of maybe the fashion line you did and whatever else your home installation business, what are some of the other kind of businesses you've had, startups, businesses you're a part of, verticals you're in? Like, give me a bit of a resume of some different business ventures you're in.
We started a roofing business, which is great. It's good stuff. Again, I love the boring and mundane businesses. We do environmental services now, so compliance testing, things like that. On a national platform, we do really well there. But the biggest thing I do now is look for the right talent and set up a division where empowers someone to run that division better than I can ever do. Because I'm ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm an entrepreneur. I look for opportunities. When I find one, make sure that there's a good partner to run that business, and more of a private equity mindset.
Yeah, I got you. How about just other businesses that you've touched, not today, but over the past, call it 10 years? Like, what other verticals have you been in outside of fuel and adjacent?
Again, the gaming machine was really a successful thing, which I sold out. Credit card processing, which we're back into now, trying to do that again. But if it is scalable, and if you could have the right operator to do it, I'm definitely interested.
Gotcha. What is the kind of plan moving forward next 12 months, 5 years, 10 years? Like, and really to the end, like, what's the vision?
Build another large company, scale it, and reward the people that's been with you in this journey. It's life before bankruptcy and after bankruptcy, and the articles and things that people talk about. When things go well, you have 1,000 friends. When things don't, you have 5 or 6. But spoke to really nice people like Jimmy Haslam's and Mrs. Benson from the Saints, or whoever, right? Some large organizations, but very successful people, and they all tell you that they went through their struggles too. But remember the ones that has been there with you, especially on the downfall. And I have a good group of people here. How do I reward them and give them a sense of this journey moving forward? And that's definitely the goal.
Gotcha. And as we close out, I guess for the audience and the public, what do people not know about Turjo Wadud that you feel like you need to speak on, or a perspective that most people don't have?
Big on family, and money is never the big thing for me. People might think different, but it's just not the driver.
Yeah.
It's all about legacy. It's about, if my kids tell me I'm cool, then I made it, right? Because the wife, I don't know if she will ever say I'm cool, but honestly, if I could make the people at my house proud, I have achieved all. That's the biggest driver. And I love working with people, love relationships, love helping, and I feel like if you want to scale something or build something really big, you need people. If you show me an entrepreneur that told you he did it on himself, I'll show you an asshole. If you show me an entrepreneur that tells you that his team helped, he's being honest. So you could never create something on your own. You have to have the right people around you, and make sure you look out for them too.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I guess that closes out this episode. I had a great thought, but it blanked. I think another just thought that I was thinking about was, I would definitely second that. And for those wondering, I am a producer of the podcast. We've, talked behind the scenes about, what we want to accomplish, the guests we want to have. This episode was a little different in that we are just trying to, peel back the layers on, okay, who the heck is Turjo? And so, it's been a lot of fun, and we're excited to have a bunch of different guests in this very seat.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This is fun.